Okay, well, I am very excited to have Harriett Sebastian here with me. I stumbled on her website when I was doing research for one of my books, and I was so bold. I reached out to her, and we've connected several times, and now I'm very excited to be able to have an interview with her so that you'll get to know her through my YouTube channel and then follow hers. So, let us get started. So, tell me a little bit about the journey that you had in starting your website, Wartime Wisdom.
Sure. Um, well, I was a writer and editor for the first half of my career, and then I ended up moving to Asia and
Oh,
starting a teaching career. So that was a huge adjustment. And I did that for many years until recently. And as I was trying to think of what I wanted to do next, I contacted a fabulous career coach in my area, and she asked me this one question that I probably is common for people who have career coaches, but it came out of left field for me. She just asked me what was it that I could do? Could I see myself doing anything that I would never get tired of? Well, instantly what came to mind was what I had been doing before my meeting with her and what I did all the time as my hobby, which was research World War II. So I just love to read those old cookbooks.
yeah.
I like the history of that era. I was fascinated by it and still am. And so that's what I told her. And that was the quickest career counseling or coaching ever
That's
because
fantastic. Oh my gosh, that's
yeah, all I had to
fantastic.
do from there was get connected with people who could help me set up the website, and here we are.
Which is a beautiful. People have got to go visit your website, wartimewisdom.com, and we'll mention that again at the end. Um,
Thank you.
I think you did tell me you had been in Asia, but I totally forgot that. What area were you in, or are you allowed to tell me?
I was in East Asia and I was also in South America for a while, but then I returned to Asia and I was planning to live there long term, but some health issues got in the way and obviously there was a whole nother trajectory for my life. So it's all good.
Sure, sure. So, do you speak any of the Asian languages?
A little bit of
Okay,
Chinese, just survival Chinese. I was in language school when I got sick, so I didn't get to
sure.
finish.
Okay, okay. Wow, that's exciting.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so you talked a little bit about your love of researching of in World War II, but why don't you be more specific and tell us what draws you specifically to the era?
My grandparents, for sure, especially my dad's parents. So, my I grew up. I was partly reared by my grandparents, all four of them. We all lived in a small town, and I was very, very attached to all four of my grandparents. So, my dad's parents had quite a history with World War II because my grandpa had served during the entire war.
Oh,
And he actually joined the army before the age of 18. And he was like a middle teenager when he joined the army. And that was with special permission. And he was issued a horse and put into the cavalry.
wow.
So, yeah. So he moved on from there. And by the time World War II came along, he was working on tanks.
Yeah, that's
And
where
that's
they typically sent the cavalry folks, from what I understand. Yeah.
Yes, I think he was doing something with building tanks. I don't know what else he did.
Okay.
When he passed away, we got his military records, and almost all of it was classified and marked out. So we don't know a lot, except for some pieces that we can sort of put together. We know he was
Sure.
in the South Pacific. And then when my dad was a toddler, he was transferred to Germany. So for 3 years, he and my grandma and my dad lived in Germany.
Ah,
And they were doing, I don't know everything my grandfather was doing there. Like I say, a lot, everything about everything he did was blacked out.
sure, sure.
But that was a huge experience for them, and I heard the stories about it growing up. And then, there was the attic in my grandparents' house. It was like a little secret world of my
Oh,
grandpa's with just the coolest books, and he was a big time stamp collector. And I wanted to show you this. This is a box that he made.
oh, how special.
That was in, this is one of the things that was up in their attic. And he eventually, these were foreign stamps, and he eventually had stopped collecting foreign stamps and only bought US stamps. And he had a sheet of every US stamp until he died.
Wow,
So he
fantastic.
just had a massive collection. He was self-educated, and I loved going up in the attic. But the big thing that was in the middle of the attic that was like the huge mystery for me was this big black trunk that had my grandma's name and a town in Germany on it.
Mm.
And she used to tell me the story. I asked her to tell me about it probably 200 times over the years. And it was the story of them going over to Germany. And because my dad had severe asthma as a child, they had to go by hospital ship
Oh,
to Germany. It was a long trip. It was terrible. My grandmother was extremely seasick the whole time and never could hold her head up. And there were signs around the boat saying that the boat would not stop for children who fell overboard. And she was just terrified.
sure.
So she had my dad tethered to her by a rope. And that was just the beginning of that story. There's so many stories I heard. And then I grew up going to the military base near their home. Uh, they usually would go every month, and we'd go to the PX and the commissary and eat there on base. And all those things were part of them and their lives. And I was so close to them and so attached to them
Yeah.
that it just became part of my life. And
Wow.
I've never lost the desire to know more about what that was for them.
It's interesting how the generations, subsequent generations are affected. Whereas my grandparents were just old enough that they did not serve. Well, they were too old to be in combat. My maternal grandfather, they owned a massive farm. So he, of course, food production was a huge thing. So he got deferred in not having to certainly work in the defense industry, but he was too old for combat. And my dad's dad worked for Shell Oil. And so,
Oh,
again, an industry that was tied to war material and whatnot. And so he, again, a little bit too old. He could have served, but again, kept. So the home front is more what I end up knowing about because of their stories. So it's very interesting depending on, the experience you had and how it impacted you, and then mine. Yeah, very interesting. Very
but
interesting.
my whole website is all on the home front. I chose not to do the military things. I know there was a lot of trauma and horror.
Yeah,
So I don't try to make light of it on my
sure,
website, but
sure,
I do want to make it more of a place for encouragement for people who just had to go through it,
sure.
keeping calm and carrying on,
Yes, yes,
and not. But personally, I do a lot of research about the military things too, because that's important to me to call that to remembrance for all of my life.
sure, sure. So speaking of your website, you have just such it's such great content between recipes and the tips and whatnot. Um, and I'm definitely not a great homemaker. Um, so I have found many of your tips very useful because they're shortcuts, which is fabulous.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
so talk to me about I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot, but your favorite piece of wisdom that you've learned from the war to share.
Oh, wow. That's a toughie because so many, like every single person had a different experience. And I've
Sure.
read so many diary entries that were very different from one another. I guess I would take it from my grandparents. What their response to it all was, that things could stay simple. You didn't need a big home. You didn't need a lot of things to be content. Things needed to be managed, especially like finances and household management. Um,
Yeah, those are,
but basic things, they used very basic things to stay clean, to stay orderly, and to have what they really loved. Education was very important to them, and family. Um, they stuck together, and my grandma was part of a large family that had everything they grew and produced everything they had during the Depression on their family farm.
sure.
So they were all very close, and I think helping each other, helping other people was a massive part of World War II that I also saw in them. If people had not helped each other, a lot more people would have died.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a definite mindset. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, do you have a favorite recipe from the war?
I do, I do. And it's going to sound gross every time I say it to somebody. They make a face, but it's coffee jelly. And they
Really?
don't, I think what people don't understand is that coffee jelly is not like jelly that you put on your toast that we know jelly as here in America, but it's like it's the word that people in Europe and other places use for Jello. We
Okay,
call it
like
by the
like an
brand name
aspic.
Jello.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not an aspic or anything like that.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just like a Jello, but
Okay.
made with unflavored gelatin and coffee. So it exactly tastes just like coffee. And then you put homemade whipped cream on it, and it's like your latte died and went to heaven. It is so good.
Wow. Okay. How fun is
That's my favorite. And then
Okay.
we have a couple of others. One is a bacon and baked bean sandwich that
Ooh,
my husband still mentions from time to time. Simple as it can be, but it is so good.
sure.
And there was this one that I made that was a dark horse, a roast beef and salad platter that I was almost afraid to serve him, but that was really good. That was a hit for our
Yeah, I
whole
remember
family.
seeing that one on your site. Yep. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
they those are probably my three favorites.
Fun. Wow, I love the idea. I'm very fortunate in that my husband does 99% of the cooking. I'm not,
Oh, yeah.
again, I think I'm the husband, he's the wife. I'm not sure. I'm not a homemaker. I don't cook. What do I do? Um, but yeah, yeah, I'm not much of a cook, but like I said, I love the recipes and I have several World War II cookbooks myself, and simplicity was the name of the game, you know?
Mhm.
And so I can put together so many of those recipes. Um, do you do you have a time where you ended up with a recipe disaster? You commented that the
Oh, yeah.
recipe was a dark horse and that worked out, but did you have something you tried, you thought, well, this will be great, and it went down in flames?
I had one that was that way, one that was iffy from the get-go, and
Yeah.
well, two. But the reason there was not a blog post produced this past week or this week is because I had a massive fail last week.
Okay, so it was recent.
I was making an old 1942 bacon substitute that a woman had sent in to a Canadian newspaper. And I don't know what the difference between cornmeal mush is here and cornmeal mush in Canada. There's evidently some great difference. There is no way in the world anybody could ever have mistaken that for a bacon substitute. It was just awful. So I couldn't even salvage it. And
Oh,
then mock whipped cream. I've tried multiple recipes that I've seen in the old cookbooks for that.
yeah.
There's only one that's passable that I've ever tried. Some of them were so gross. It almost turned, I think my taste buds filed a restraining order. It was terrible. And the one that is passable is still not great. It's not like whipped cream, but it's at least passable. And I put that one in a blog post. So that's on the where I did the New Zealand Fielder's sponge cake, classic sponge cake.
Yeah.
I used that in there. And then one time I made what was supposed to be a grape pie. Grape desserts used to be really popular.
Hmm.
And that was a huge fail. And I wrote a blog post about that when recipes go wrong. And I turned the insides of the pie into grape muffins because the pastry from the war time was bad. Sometimes the wartime pastry, when they couldn't get white flour, was just really awful.
Sure. Yeah, it does make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there
people,
have been a few fails.
well, but you're going to, I mean, sure, sure. Any kind of experiment, that's for sure. So what do you think? You did talk a little bit about what drew you to the era. What do you think that people in general today can learn from the World War II era? What can they kind of take away?
Be creative with what you have. You don't need half the stuff you think you have to have. I mean, really, they had soap, they had water. It's just such basic things. And like my grandmother, when she died, she still scarcely had a single wrinkle. Her skin was gorgeous. And
Wow.
she had rose water and glycerin, and she had soap. So that's what she used her whole life. And they just simplicity is a big thing. And don't be afraid to try putting things together in a different way, or repurposing things, or
Sure.
reimagining how you put your ingredients together. And mainly, just don't give up.
All excellent points, and I would agree with that. I would agree with that. So, what do you hope that people will take away from your blog?
I think the main thing is encouragement. And that's the reason I chose to focus on the things I focus on instead of doing military stuff, excuse me,
Hmm.
because I realize that the war was horrific and it gets very romanticized. It's real easy to romanticize it as we write about it and post things on it and redo, the 40s hairdos and clothes and things. And a lot of us are interested in that. There are lots of YouTube channels and websites
Yes.
about World War II. So it's like a little community,
Yeah.
and I love it. But it's very easy to talk about all those things as if it were fun, some kind of cozy, fun, old-fashioned experiment. And really, it was just terror breaking out all over the world, and
Sure.
a lot of people got hurt or killed. So it's very sobering. It was a very sobering time,
Right.
not a fun time. And I'm sure my grandpa was in great danger a lot of the time. And
Sure.
I don't like the thought of that. But there were also so many good things that happened. People saving each other's lives, people helping each other, when the Blitz happened, and finding furniture for them and helping them to resettle, and taking their children, taking care of their children, or giving them a place to stay, and all the food that people made for each other. And so I just wanted to focus on the home life, the civilian life of the everyday person, which is what, probably most of the people who see my blog are. It's not meant to be a military history site,
Sure. Sure.
but just a place where people can go and say, and look, here's how they did it. They made it work this way, or they did this, or they did that. And it might give people an idea in case they should ever be out of something or in a hard time. Maybe it will prompt them to get creative in their own way.
Sure.
So I
Absolutely.
hope it will encourage people that way. That's what I want to do, is make it as uplifting as possible.
Excellent. Well, like I said, I stumbled on it, was absolutely enamored and drawn in immediately. And I,
I'm
trust me
so
when I tell you,
glad.
I wade through a lot of World War II sites. A
I'm
lot.
so glad to hear that.
So absolutely, absolutely. All right. So my last question, um, what projects do you have upcoming that you'd like people to know about?
Oh, I have two big ones.
Ooh,
One is a recipe index, and it's in today's time. It comes out this week. I think maybe by the time this video is out, it maybe would have just released. So it may already be on there by the time people see this. So on my website, wartimewisdom.com, there's a like an about section, and then there's a blog section where people can go and look at every blog post. And when I started this a few years ago, there were only a dozen blog posts. And so there were like, just a dozen recipes, and it was easy to find what you wanted. Now, a few years later, I've got hundreds of recipes. Some of the blog posts have maybe 5 recipes in that one post. Like if I did one on soup, and then I would do multiple recipes on accompaniments for soup. So it got to be a little bit of an albatross for trying to find the recipes.
Sure,
So
sure.
we have done a massive project and put
Yeah.
together a whole index where
Wow.
there's
It
going to be
must
a
have
new
been a
tab.
lot of work.
Oh, it's been a lot of work, like all this year.
Yeah.
And you can search beef, cheese, sandwiches, what you can search by category, or you can search a recipe name and go straight to it. It's beautiful. It's so beautifully done. I'm very thankful for the person who was helping me do this, and I'm real happy to be releasing it now. And then after that, I'm going to be releasing a series of small cookery booklets,
Ooh.
like these little ones you see from World War II.
Yeah. Mhm.
Not huge cookbooks, but these were
Right.
very popular that
Yes,
people
very much
used, and
so.
they were just straightforward recipes. So I'm working on a series of those that we're going to make available over this next year, and there'll be different categories coming out. So, and it'll be almost, if not all, it'll be almost entirely new recipes, not what's on the website. So it's
Fantastic.
going to be just a
Wow.
huge resource of
Yeah,
food.
that
Yeah,
sounds great. Oh, that sounds exciting. Well, good for you. Well, good for
it
you.
is a lot of work, but it
Yeah.
is exciting.
Well, I know your followers will appreciate it. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been an absolute joy. Is there anything else you want to share with folks before we stop recording?
No, except that they might want to look on my website at some point because I'm still reading some of your books, and I would like to do a blog post with a book review of some of your books at some point. So they might want to check that out.
Okay, well, and I will be sure to put all of your contact, all your links in the description section of the YouTube video. There's a section where I can put, because you have a Pinterest page as well. Yes. So
Yes,
yes, you have your own,
and a YouTube
and
channel.
your own YouTube and a Pinterest and then your website. So yes, I will be sure to include all that information. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much. This
Oh,
was a
sure.
delight.
It was. All right.